The microphone is on.
Microphones. All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming to the Community Advisory Committee organizational meeting. We're going to call the meeting to order and establish quorum. So upon the receipt of a completed application in response to the request for applications issued pursuant to New York Racing, Carry Mutual Wagering and Breeding Law, Title 2A, the Commission will establish a community advisory committee for each application received based upon the physical location of the proposed gaming facility. According, having received a completed application for the project at 11th Avenue and 41st Street in Manhattan, the Commission has established a community advisory committee for the applicant, the Avenir. By statute, such community advisory committee is to consist of appointees made by the governor, the New York City mayor, the state senator, and the state assembly member who represent the district where the proposed facility is to be located, the borough president where the facility is proposed to be located, and the city council member representing the district where the facility is proposed to be located. Members of this community advisory committee have been appointed by Governor Kathy Hochul, New York City Mayor Eric Adams, New York State Senator Brad Holman Siegel, sorry, my apologies. New York State Assembly Member Tony Simone, Borough President Mark Levine, and New York City Council Member Eric Botcher. That's awesome. Pursuant to New York General Construction Law 41, a quorum shall be established by the presence of 4 members. I will now call the roll of appointed members. Angel Vasquez, appointed by Governor Kathy Hochul.
Present.
Nabila Malik, appointed by New York City Mayor Eric Adams.
Present.
Richard Gottfried, appointed by New York State Senator Brad Holman
Here.
Siegel. Thank you. Matthew Teig, by audio, appointed by New York State Assembly Member Tony Simone. Thank you. Madeline McGrory, appointed by Borough President Mark Levine.
Present.
Wonderful. Quentin Heilbrenner, appointed by New York City Council Member Eric.
Present.
Present. Wonderful. The presence of a quorum of qualified members is present, thus enabling the transaction of business today. Please note that the committee member tag is in Vietnam. Bilateral visual and oral communications between our location and Vietnam have been established. Materials to be discussed at today's meeting have been provided to all members, including Resolution 2501 regarding public access to Community Advisory Committee meetings, along with the proposed rule text. Resolution 2502 regarding administration of the Freedom of Information Law by a Community Advisory Committee, along with the proposed rule text. A copy of the brief introduction and task overview presentation. Proposed template schedule along with template form to request changes to an application and conduct a final vote, as well as a copy of the Racing Law Section 1321D, which details the Community Advisory Committees. That's it. So we'll move on to the next. So the consideration of a resolution, we need to appointment of Community Advisory Committee Chair. So per the New York Racing, Carry Mutual Wagering and Breeding Law 1321D3E7, each Community Advisory Committee at its first meeting shall elect a chair by majority vote. At this time, I'd like to facilitate this process by opening nominations to serve as chair of this Community Advisory Committee. Any nominations for the chair? Anybody? We do have Matt Ty on the phone as well. So does anybody want to nominate someone?
I'll nominate Matt Ty.
You'll nominate Matt Ty. Excellent. Excellent. So I'm going to move the nomination of Matt Ty. So are there any other nominations? No? Okay. Can I get a motion to close nominations?
So move.
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor for Matt Tag to serve as the chair of the Avenir Community Advisory Committee, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, all the ayes have it. So congratulations, Matt. You are now the chair of this committee, so welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Awesome. So now I'm going to move on for a brief introduction and task overview. So what I'm going to do is provide you kind of who we are, what we're here for, and what your role is, right? So my name, as I said before, is Andrea Ferris, and I work for a company called Nice Tech, and we're the entity selected following a public bid to serve as Community Advisory Committee consultant for the New York State Gaming Commission. Founded over a quarter of a century ago, Nice Tech is a non-for-profit consulting company with more than 350 full-time employees operating in multiple locations throughout New York State, including New York City. We have extensive experience in task force and steering committee coordination, stakeholder engagement, public meeting facilitation, adherence with the New York's open meetings law, and a large-scale event planning. I want to start by advising that each advisory committee member has been provided a copy of the complete application submitted by the Avenir in response to the request for applications. If anyone needs assistance to access that material, I can facilitate it, but I believe everyone was able to get their information, we were able to get the additional information requested, right? So everyone feels comfortable about the redacted and the non-redacted information. Excellent. And as a reminder, as time with the non-redacted, application materials may contain personally identifiable information and trade secrets, which if disclosed would cause substantial injury to the competitive position of the submitting entity. So each community advisory committee member should exercise care to prevent inappropriate or unauthorized disclosure of that information. I also want to note that redacted application responses have been posted on the gaming facility location website. So next up is best practice resolution consideration. It is our understanding that the New York State Committee on Open Government has created 2 documents to guide best practices to govern the public access to meetings and handling freedom of information requests. Before us are best practice documents adapted from the Open Meetings Law model rules for the public bodies and the Freedom of Information Law model rules for agencies. All members of the Community Advisory Committee have been provided draft documents in advance. I believe the New York State Committee on Open Government documents are clear and straightforward and should be considered as circulated and taking them individually. We'll talk about it. Open Meetings Law. May I have a motion to adopt Open Meetings Law model rules for public bodies as adapted for the Avenir Community Advisory Committee?
So moved.
Second. Anybody for a second? Awesome. All in favor for adopting Open Meeting Law model rules for public bodies as adapted for our Community Advisory Committee, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you, Matt. All right, so the ayes have it. Freedom of Information Law. May I have a motion to adopt the Freedom of Information Law model rules for agencies as adapted for the Avenir Community Advisory Committee? A motion to approve.
So move.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of adopting Freedom of Information Law model rules for agencies as adapted for our Community Advisory Committee, say aye.
Aye.
Awesome. Anybody opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Next up for conversation is consideration of schedule and timeline. So the final matter for today's organizational meeting is to discuss dates, durations, and locations for public hearings. Practically, we need to establish how we would like the presentations to be undertaken and how to receive public comments at hearings. It's advised that in 2014, the Gaming Facility Location Board issued a protocol for the conduct of application presentations. While not perfectly applicable, it does contain a few items that we should consider adapting for our use. The protocol includes language regarding presentation length, use of equipment, and other visual aids and decorum of applicants and public attendees. The Gaming Facility Location Board also in 2014 issued a protocol for the conduct of public comment events. The protocol included language regarding participation, reservation length, use of equipment, and other visual aids, written submissions, and decorum. So now we need to talk about addressing both of these so we have it issued before next meeting. So I guess really the conversation is, one, we need to come up with a public space, which we can do offline off this meeting. Which kind of, I'll need everybody to kind of come up with a recommendation of where we can hold the space. But then also I think it's going to be important to identify if you want the Avenir presentation to also be presented at the first public hearing or even the second. So those are a couple of decisions that you'll need to make. So just put that there. Anybody have any questions for me? Awesome. All right, so now I'm going to go into, actually I want to go into my presentation. All right, so let's go to the slide deck. Yeah, it's definitely.
Excuse our backs.
Yeah.
Are the slides supposed to be in this packet that I
They
received?
are,
They
yeah.
So
Is that the
I think
bigger
I
one?
received an.
Okay, let me grab it.
Or did you didn't get the big one?
Yeah, I got the smaller one.
You get to the big one. All right, so let's talk about the Community Advisory Committee as a whole and what does it communicate. So what we're going to do in this presentation is provide a broad overview of how you all ended up here and what you're going to be required to do over the next few months, right? So everybody should have that. Do you have the? It's on there should be 5 of them. Do you have the fifth? Yeah. Let me take that out. Sorry. Matt's received his. There you go. Sorry, Angel. Come in here with us. Awesome. Thank you. All right. So, So just a little general background about what we're doing here. So the New York State Constitution was amended in 2012 to allow 7 commercial casinos in the state. 4 of the 7 casinos were established in upstate in 2014 and 15, following a competitive process very similar to the one that we're engaged in now, right? In 2022, the legislature established the citing process for up to 3 casino licenses, specifically creating a gaming facility location board to issue a request for applications, evaluate applications, and select up to 3 projects for commission licensure. So the board issued a request for applications in 2023 and currently has 4 members, Vicki Bean as chair, along with Terrell Brown, Marianne Phillips III, and Greg Brooks, right? With 1 vacancy. So that's our board. Next slide, please. Okay, the law requires the creation of a project-specific community advisory committee to determine whether the application should advance to the gaming facility location board for consideration. Each committee is made up of appointees of elected officials representing the physical location of the proposed project, and that's where you're here for. Slide. All right. On June 27th, 8 applications were received, and thus 8 community advisory committees have been formed. You can see here what the 8 properties are. So the Avenir, why are you here? You've been appointed by an appointing authority to serve on the Community Advisory Committee for the Avenir located at the 11th Avenue and 41st Street, Manhattan. So you can see there on the slide all the different locations. And then this is just a brief overview of the Avenir, along with the welcome letter that you can see in your packet there a little bit closer. Anybody have any questions so far? Awesome. All right, moving on. So this is where we are in the overall citing process. Each committee has until September 30th to complete its work. Those applications that are approved by their committee will then be evaluated by the board by the statutory criteria. And the board expects to announce its selections by December 1st, followed by the commission license consideration by the end of the year. So this is the dates of where we were and where we are. Awesome.
Am I in anyone's way? Should I sit off to the side? You can see, okay.
Excellent. So I'm not going to read through the slide, but by statute, the committee is required to review the application, solicit and review public comments, and hold at least 2 hearings. By September 30th, each CAC must vote with a 2/3 majority whether the application should be advanced to the gaming facility location board. A failure to hold a vote by September 30th will be deemed a rejection. So that date is a hard date. There is no movement on that date. Any questions on that? All right, so now here we are. Practically speaking, committee members must, 1, vote for a chair, which we've already accomplished. Great job. Review the application, attend hearings and meetings, review public comment, and vote in public meeting before September 30th whether the project should advance to the gaming facility location board. Collectively, each committee must operate in accordance with the New York State Open Meetings Law, elect a chair at its first organizational meeting by a majority vote, hold at least 2 public hearings to solicit the comments, review public comments on the project, and vote to establish that public support. So for the Avenir application to advance to the gaming facility location board for consideration, 4 committee members must vote in affirmative to make that happen. All right, so application changes. If you've had an opportunity to review the application, if you're looking to make any changes, right, you can solicit changes to a bidder's application. However, there are substantial limitations to the changes that can be made by the bidder. In discussion with a committee, a bidder may make a promise, commitment, or obligation. To be considered, it must be reduced to writing and filed by the deadline. All promises, commitments, or obligations must be definitive, meaning not incumbent or future state or local discretionary action, and unconditioned inability of the bidder to perform. A committee may request the bidder change or modify their application. For such to be considered, it too must be reduced to writing and filed by the deadline. Any change or modification necessitating to change to the Environmental Quality Review Act process cannot be considered. So that's important to know. All right, to advance an application, The committee must notify the gaming facility location board of such unconditional affirmative vote by the deadline. All materials upon which an affirmative decision is based is required to be delivered by the board, with members of the CAC concurring in the positive determination signing the title page of such material. For purpose of advancing the application to the gaming facility location board, the community advisory committee must realize 4 affirmative member votes. So I think on to the next slide would be, in case you missed it, we need to have 4 people voting. 4 people need to vote yes in order to move the application forward to the gaming facility location board. That's obviously an important note to make, right? All right, cool. So now we're gonna look at a schedule. You have your slides in front of us and we'll advance it when Robin gets back. But are you able? Oh, you can. Oh, go for it. There you go. All right, so before we look at this schedule and say, well, that's gonna be difficult, we understand that this is just a proposed schedule. In order to get our first public hearing by August 1st, that's impossible. So we're gonna push that deadline a little bit. But it's gonna be important to know that this is a proposed schedule for the committee's consideration, including 2 meetings and 2 hearings as required by the statute. This proposed schedule is obviously not definitive, as I just said, and also it's important to note that a meeting and a hearing could be combined into a single event. So you could technically have a public hearing in the morning and a public hearing in the afternoon. So we have a lot of room with that. So if you wanted to get creative, we were able to do that. This example schedule is intended to demonstrate one way to meet the statutory requirements by the September 30th deadline. So if we were able to follow this would guarantee we make it by the deadline. As an independent body, each committee may set their own schedule between now and September 30th. So you're all autonomous for this committee to make our dates. Any questions there?
Are there time limitations to the hearings?
So that's something as a committee will have to be discussed. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. All right, so next slide. Wonderful. An important part of the committee's statutory obligation is the requirement to accept and review comments regarding the project. For that reason,
Excuse me.
sorry, go for it.
Just to go back to the question of schedule,
Mhm.
I don't know if this is common around the region, but this committee and the Caesar's Palace Committee have some degree of overlap
Yeah,
in terms of their membership, in terms of interested parties, who would testify at a hearing, et cetera. And so I just think it's important that we coordinate with the Caesar's Palace Committee how we schedule things.
yeah. I think it's one thing we were, as a representative of the Gaming Commission, we were cognitive of that for this meeting, and I think we'll have to be cognitive of that. And I think one thing we're coming to find out is, obviously, as you know, this is your location. There's not a lot of space in Manhattan, right? So Times Square as a whole. So we are going to be limited by scheduling because there is an overlap, but also the availability of space. So the important, I think, message there is just to be flexible, and hopefully we can make that finish line, right? I know everybody's got a busy schedule at summertime, but it's a great point, Richard, to your point. Yeah, thank you. We'll make sure that we cognizant of that. So we've created an email, so any public comment, it's been posted on the website, that we have this email available for any public comments to be read. Our team will be tracking those public comments, and we're discussing the protocol to get them to the committee members. So we'll make sure that we get to see every public comment made and sent over that email. Once the comments that were previously submitted to the commission and board regarding the project are being collected for the committee members' review, as I just said, those seeking to submit comment to the committee are encouraged to do so soon. So that way, from a public standpoint, if you're looking to submit a comment, make sure you get it in as soon as possible. That way the committee has enough time to review them all and take it into consideration before the deadline of September 30th. All right. Next slide, please. Awesome. Unredacted application material. So this is kind of your word of caution, right? So there's a lot of, as we talked about prior, there's information in there that shouldn't be shared. So as a member of the committee, you are tasked with reviewing the complete application. So both the redacted and redacted versions of the application. The unredacted materials can contain, as we said before, personally identified information and trade secrets that is disclosed to cause substantial injury to the competitive process of the submitted entry. Committee members may compare redacted and unredacted versions of the application to determine which specific language can be shared. Okay, that's probably the best option. I think you sort of did that process already, right? So each community advisory committee member should exercise care to prevent inappropriate and unauthorized disclosure of information, and should be cognizant of the discussion of confidential information in an open meeting. Any questions about that? Awesome. All right. Next slide, please. Moving on to open meetings law and logistics. So my colleagues and I are providing logistical assistance to each committee, right? So that includes securing the meeting locations, necessary technology, materials, and support staff. As required by state law, all committee meetings and hearings will be open to the public and media, accessible, webcast, and recorded. So everyone's aware. As today, we have the live stream available to everybody, as well as public. Any questions about that? Awesome. So committee members are encouraged to recommend appropriate meeting spaces. We talked about that, including those that are conducive to holding public meetings and venues available by your appointing authorities. We welcome any and all suggestions, as you know. If you haven't heard from me, you will. But I'm pretty sure we've all spoken, so thank you for that. On to the next slide, please. Next one. Awesome. Proposed Community Advisory Committee events. So we've defined the types of events the committee could hold, right? So the organizational meeting, that's where we are today. A public organizational meeting to elect a chair, to discuss scheduling, receive a presentation from the applicant, and conduct any other initial businesses necessary. Next up would be the hearings, right? So committees must hold at least 2 public hearings to receive comments from the community. These hearings should be scheduled for convenient times at appropriate durations and location of adequate size and scope. So we can talk about that if anybody has any questions. And then the final vote meeting. So we'll have another meeting, a public meeting that will be scheduled to vote on the project. For the Avenir application to advance the gaming location board for consideration, 4 committee members must vote in the affirmative. So there it is. All right, moving on to the next slide, please. I'm not going to read through this. This is just kind of what we just talked about, just letting you know that the public and media may attend to observe the meetings, either online or in person. Awesome. Moving down again. Kind of the definition, right? So the meetings versus a hearing, I think we just went through that. The hearing just allows an opportunity for the members of the public and the committee to offer comment on the project for the committee's consideration. Usually what the idea is when we talk parameters, right, we talked about time limit. The time limit we discussed mostly is public comment time. So each person will have about 3 minutes to speak, and in order to keep it in a timely fashion, we'll stick to that 3-minute time. And then we need to make sure that the public is not allowed to ask questions. It's just the comment period, right? So there's no Q&A between the community and the public. It's just they want to let you know what they're feeling and what their thoughts are, and that's it. So, and as required by state law, CAC hearings will be open to the public media, accessible, webcast, and recorded, as I said before. And again, if the public is interested in submitting that comment, they can do it in writing and by email or mail. We've also posted on the website our mailing address for a nice text, so that way if anybody is unavailable to comment through an email, they can mail it in. So there's that. Any questions on the hearing itself? All right, so language access is next. Then translation services in ASL will be made available by the commission representative for those who request such services in advance of a meeting or hearing. So if we feel that an ASL would be beneficial prior to the public hearing, please let us know, and we will do our best to accommodate that request. Committee members may request representatives to make additional language access services available to members of the public, and print materials in additional languages. I think I've spoken to a few of you about your recommendation for languages, so I'll reach out to the rest of you to see if we can come to a conclusion as to what would be your suggested language for any meeting materials for those public hearings. So you'll hear from us soon on that. Next up, communication with project representatives. Great. So reminder to be mindful of public officer law obligations and refrain from contact with any applicant or anyone on their behalf, except in the context of a public meeting or through a public comment process. The limitation does not apply to official business interaction between a committee member undertaking the position as a public officer or employee and an applicant limited to their pursuit of local entities. Any questions there? All right, on to the next. Ethics. Committee members should avail themselves of all applicable ethics laws, rules, and guidelines, right? So the Committee of Ethics and Lobbying Government is one resource, and it ensures compliance within the state ethics and lobbying laws. In addition, committee members should consult with their appointing authorities regarding any additional ethics training or guidance you may need. Again, to the next slide, applicable laws. So we provided you some, again, we have the digital version of this, so provided you some links to some laws that may be applicable to your community advisory committee. Just provide you the resources if you have any questions. And as always, if there's anything we can do to help answer any questions, feel free to reach out. And then next up is resources. Again, just a few more resources from the Gaming Facility Location Board's website. Regarding the applicant and community advisory. All right, last slide. This is our contact information. So if the committee members have any additional questions, feel free to contact us. You all have my email. That's Noreen. She's the project manager's email, as well as this is our mailing address. So if you do have somebody that wants to mail any public comment, this would be the address they would send it to. And we'll be collecting and tracking all those public comments.
And we do also have an email address specifically for public comment.
Yeah.
The Avenir public comment as well.
Yep. So any questions for me? Awesome. Well, if that's the case, I'm done talking, and I'm going to allow our friends here to do your presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction.
Are we taking a time out?
Unless, does anybody need a break? Do you want to take a break? Does anybody need to do anything, or do we feel good to just roll right into it?
Let's
Keep it
roll.
rolling.
We're good.
All right. Now, you doing good over there? Wonderful. Thank you.
So I have printouts of our presentation. If it's helpful for anyone to have them to flip through, if the screen is too difficult to navigate, they're just right over there on that counter.
Would anybody like one? We can hand
Take one,
out.
yeah.
Sure.
We'll do that first. So
It's up, it's
Thank you.
buffering over here.
we're just waiting for the buffering.
Okay. We're buffering.
While we're waiting, apologies to Madeline and Quentin for seeing a version of this as early as last minute. I know you were in the room, but you were on.
Yes.
I'll try to wipe my mind of it. So
Yes.
We shortened it a lot.
Yeah, we tried to streamline it so that it fits within the 20 to 25 minutes that you've been asked to present.
All right, it looks like we're good to go.
All right, I'm just going to read something real quick before you start. So at this time, I'd like the Avenir to provide a content overview of their project. And for those in attendance today, the purpose of this overview is to simply provide the community advisory committee members with a high-level explanation of the proposed project. I don't expect this to be interactive by any fellow committee members, and certainly no questions from the public will be entertained at this time. As a reminder, committee members have access to confidential trade secrets information contained in application materials and should not be discussed in an open meeting. Members should be cautious of in such use confidential information. I also remind everyone that the community advisory committee is required by New York Racing, Perry Mutual, Wagering and Breeding laws to conduct no less than 2 public hearings. And these events we'll talk about after the presentation. So now feel free. Just so know, there is a possibility for questions and answers between the committee members and the Avenir applicant, but not from the public. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and it's a pleasure meeting all of you. Thank you for your time. My name is Dara McQuillan. I'm the head of marketing and communications for the Silverstein organization. I think our company is best known as one of New York City's leading real estate development and property management companies. We're also particularly expert at complicated neighborhood-changing public-private partnerships. We have a lot of experience working with elected officials, community board members, neighborhood groups. I think we're probably best known for our work rebuilding the World Trade Center after 9/11. We're also a family company. I've been with the company 20 years. Many of my colleagues have been there a long time. And we all live and work in the communities in which we build and in which we work. So community, as you'll hear, is important to us. And the World Trade Center project is where I started my career. Just as 7 World Trade Center was coming up out of the ground, there's actually a lot of parallels between that project and the Avenir. And we're going to talk about some of those today. One of the things that impressed me the most was the fact that Silverstein made sure that everyone from the community was part of this project, whether it was by providing jobs to high school students who apprenticed with the construction trades through construction skills programs, or working with non-traditional employment for women or helmets to hard hats, getting people into the union construction trades to help build. And that's something that we're going to continue here. We really want to make sure that everyone who wants to participate in the Avenir project has an opportunity to do so. Another theme was, the community was very much involved in how the World Trade Center shaped and what it became. And that's something that we think is hugely important here, because this is a project that's going to have a direct impact on many members of the community. We're also very passionate about art, and I think you'll see in our project that we have involved artists and designers in every aspect of this. Many of the artists that we've partnered with on the Avenir actually have free studio space at the World Trade Center. Wherever we have an empty floor that we haven't leased yet, we have artists. These are 2 of our artists, Boogie and Rez, who are actually going to be resident artists at the Avenir. And some of you may have seen, not only painted the construction site fence, but they designed all of our community-facing materials. So we love working with the artists in the communities in which we build. I'm going to go back in time a little bit. This is a photograph that shows the west side of Manhattan in 1980, and that's when the Silverstein family first got involved in the neighborhood. Larry Silverstein bought this parcel of land between 11th and 12th Avenue, and over the next 30 years developed it into River Place, which opened in 2000, Silver Towers, which opened in 2010. And between these 2 buildings, which were the first really to open on that side of 42nd Street, we have 2,300 families and over 4,000 people. These people are our most important customers. And this was one of the defining principles of this particular project. We did not want to do anything or propose anything that would impact negatively these people, because they're our people, and by extension, everyone else in the community. In 2015, Silverstein purchased the Mercedes-Benz dealership, which some of you may remember, on 11th Avenue, with an eye to developing housing on that site. We excavated it, we did a brownfield cleanup, and it proved to be challenging because of its unusual proximity to not just the Lincoln Tunnel, but a number of industrial uses directly across the street. So just north of this site, in that red building, you have a FedEx facility. The blue building is a Con Edison substation. Neither of these are going anywhere anytime soon. To the west, we have the Michael J. Quill MTA bus storage facility. We have the Javits Center and the entrance to the Lincoln Tunnel. So definitely a slightly unusual part of the west side of Manhattan. And here you can see all of the Hudson Yards buildings slowly making their way north up 11th Avenue. But what a lot of people don't realize is just to the south of this site will be the Port Authority's bus terminal ramp structure, which is a big project that the Port Authority is working on. Obviously, we have a very close relationship with the Port Authority, having been their partners for nearly 40 years at the Trade Center. So when we set about thinking about the casino opportunity and thought about this location as being potentially a good fit, the first thing we did was reach out to our residents and our neighbors and people living in the area, because it was important that their thoughts and opinions not only informed what the project would become, but the very team we put together to do it. This has never happened anywhere in New York before. We knew this was going to be unique. We knew that it was going to be challenging. So we put together a team of companies that share the same values as us. Family owned, privately owned, and very, very focused on the community. Our gaming partner, Rush Street Gaming, partners with all sorts of local businesses, hires from the neighborhood, and has very deep roots in the neighborhoods in which they work. And they also have a very strong connection to New York City. The Bloom family was instrumental in moving the Whitney to Lower Manhattan, to the west side, in 2015, and they share our passion for the arts as well as the community. Greenwood Gaming, which operates the Parks Casino outside of Philadelphia and several others, is very focused on giving back to the community, partnering with the community, and supporting a lot of organizations, which is exactly what this project is planning to do. And we're all very, very focused on making sure that the jobs here go to members of our community. And this is a very diverse community, and we think it's important to reflect that in all of our work. And our architect, we chose New Yorkers who design buildings here in New York and have a deep connection to New York. So I'm delighted to introduce my partner, friend and colleague, Nancy Ruddy.
Thanks, Dara, and thank you all from the CAC committee coming out on this hot day to get to know the Avenir project. So I'm Nancy Ruddy. I'm co-founder of Cetra Ruddy. And we too are a family-owned business. My partner, John Cetra, and I started our business in our second bedroom in Long Island City decades ago, before it was a chic place to live. As Dara mentioned, we are a New York City firm, and for the past 38 years, we have focused on New York City and in building community, home, and placemaking, while maintaining, we believe, the highest design standards, along with sustainability and inclusion. Over this time, we have worked successfully in collaborating with community boards and local residents to create contextual and sensitive buildings throughout the 5 boroughs. And I didn't know that Dara was handing that out, but that little picture in the middle there is, Dara said, don't you have a picture of when you and John started the firm? And that's John and I, just out of architecture school, sitting on the then undeveloped far west side waterfront there. So
Full circle.
full circle. So there you are. So now I'm really pleased to talk very briefly about the design of the Avenir site. I think that this map is very important. You know, as Andrea said, and you all know, the site is on 11th Avenue between 41st and 42nd Street in the Special Hudson Yards District in Manhattan's far west side. In looking at the map, you see that it is uniquely located at the crossroads of diverse residential, industrial, commercial, and entertainment uses. It's at the crossroads, but not really so connected to any of those neighborhoods. So as urbanists, we believe that by activating this site with an entertainment facility that on this site that is underutilized, that will knit together the fabric of the far west side area. And as we're all New Yorkers, we're a pedestrian city, and people come to New York City as tourists because they love walking around. Someone was talking about another city where, you know, it was 118 degrees and you can't walk around. People love the New York City street life. And so we feel that this would be an avenue to connect the Javits Center and Times Square and the theater district and the residential neighborhoods of Hell's Kitchen. So I think it would be an urbanistically very successful project. So what the map also shows is the circular dotted lines show a 5, 10, and 15-minute walk from our site. And as you can see, we connect to the Javits Center, Times Square, Moynihan Station, Theater District, and established Hell's Kitchen communities. So it is ideally located in that there's nothing there right now, and yet it has great connectability. Additionally, as far as public and private transportation, there are 11 subway lines that are within 5 and 10 minutes of the site. There's the Port Authority bus terminal, New Jersey ferries, and numerous public and private transportation hubs that connect to local airports. And therefore, it is expected that the Avenir is really going to be a location that is not meant to be driven to by cars. It's very easy to access from the greater metropolitan area and then by the airports beyond that. So our sense is that we will be creating a secure and activated walkable path for residents and visitors alike. So let's talk about the design of it. From a programmatic standpoint, the building is 1.7 million square feet, containing a 200 square foot casino, which makes up about 12% of the entire building. The remainder of the venue includes a 1,000 room luxury hotel and conference event venue meant to supplement the needs of Javits Center. There will be numerous food venues that total about 130,000 square feet. And really interesting, there will be a 700-seat food hall that will showcase local restaurateurs and be accessible to the public. Additionally, all along 11th Avenue, which I'll show you shortly, there will be a community gallery, but it is a flexible community space for cultural and educational items as well. So the building design itself is, yes, it's beautiful, but more importantly, the design is based, in our opinion, it's grounded in the tradition of great New York buildings, that it's contextual and sensitive to the neighborhood fabric, while also becoming a beacon of design excellence on the New York City skyline. We're hoping that it's going to take its place along the Empire State Building and the Chrysler Building and the World Trade Center to continue that tradition of design excellence. There's a 9-story podium base, which is the height of many surrounding buildings in the neighborhood. And then there's a 45-story tower on top of the building that relates to the higher structures that you can see in this rendering. And so why does the building have these curvilinear forms? It's not about fashion. It's really about creating an urbanistic approach to the project. And the curvilinear form was developed based on sun studies and sightline studies, and the idea of how do you put a very large building within a community. And so we wanted to create this elegant form that would allow view corridors from all different directions, because everyone is concerned, what about my Empire State Building view? And but additionally, to bring sunlight down onto the sidewalk, because the design of the building cuts back at the street to create outdoor plazas. So, and then I should just note before I move on that the building massing complies with the underlying bulk regulations of the Special Hudson Yards District, which is very important. Okay, so the next slide shows you the 41st Street side of the building, which is the entrance to the hotel and the casino. There's an additional entrance on 40th and 11th Avenue where non-gaming visitors can enter the building to come up into the building to enjoy amenities within the building without going through the casino. It's very important to the development team that people who are not gamers can come up and enjoy the amenities, the food facilities, and all that the building will have to offer. The other thing that you'll note on this rendering is that you see that the building sets back from the street, and there's two very important reasons we did that. One, it's opening itself as a sense of welcome to people in the neighborhood, to pedestrians, and to visitors. The other important element is that we are all concerned about increased traffic in New York City, and that's something that's on everyone's mind. So what we did is we pulled the building back from our site so that we can bring in vehicles coming to the site within our building site, so as to minimally impact traffic along the major streets. We do that again on the 40th Street side, where we have an interior loading dock, where all servicing of the building will come off of the streets. So as much as we can, we're trying to minimize that effect. The other thing that you'll notice here is continuing the Silverstein Properties tradition, you'll see art on the facade, you'll see sculptural art, and Larry Silverstein and Silverstein Properties have committed that every side of the building on the first and second floor will have original artwork, community art, three-dimensional art. You know, I said, you have a Jeff Koons in front of your building, I want one here. So the whole area, which is now, as we've seen it, is unbuilt, will be a place where people may want to come. There'll be landscaped sidewalks, bike parking, and widened sidewalks, so that it becomes a place, an amenity for the community, even when you don't come in. Okay, so this next view is a closer up view of the 11th Avenue facade. It's just under 200 feet long, 2 stories high, 45 feet high. That will be the community gallery, flex space, a place where, a teacher could have a class on a subject. It's going to be pet friendly, because what we've learned about the community is there's almost more pets in this, in this neighborhood than almost any, neighborhood in New York City. And then this other view of the inside of the community gallery shows that it will be light filled with greenery, and it additionally shows round clear glass elevators that will take, these are the elevators that will take people who don't want to go into the casino up to enjoy the building. Lastly, we wanted to talk about sustainability. And, we as a firm and Silverstein Properties and their partners are very committed to sustainability. And so the sustainability was a key factor in the design of the Avenir. We're targeting carbon neutrality, and we're committed to, at minimum, a LEED Silver building. This will be an all-electric building, 1.7 million square feet of a building with no combustible fossil fuels. And I hope that this brief view will show you that the Avenir will definitely be, in our opinion, an asset and something that New York will be proud of.
Thank you, Nancy.
And I'd like to now turn over and introduce Dino Fusco, who is the CEO of Silverstein Properties.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to be here. More importantly, thanks for the service that you're doing on behalf of New York City, New York State. As a New Yorker, I really appreciate the time, energy, and effort that you all are putting into this very important project. During the last 3 years, we have been meeting with residents, local business owners, community organizations, and elected representatives from the neighborhood where our proposed casino site is located, because we wanted to hear their thoughts on how we could make sure we delivered a project that maximized the benefits to the community, but also minimized any of their concerns, or at the very least, mitigated any of their concerns. And we've now collected feedback from several hundred people in the Hell's Kitchen community, including many of the 2,300 families that live in the 2 complexes that Silverstein Property owns immediately adjacent and across the street from this location. Here's a slide, I think, and I apologize, I can't see the slides behind me, that shows a slide of me and another one of our CEO, Lisa Silverstein, meeting in the lobby of Silver Towers and River Place, those 2 complexes, and collecting feedback and information, answering questions from our 2,300 residents. In fact, we had in those lobbies some of the same posters that you see behind you, because we thought that was the best way to educate and inform the residents, but also be able to very openly collect their views. In the course of those conversations, they shared with us their top 4 requests relating to our project. The number 1 request was more housing. And the more housing request was the highest priority that was communicated to us by the community board and the elected officials with whom we met. And following those meetings, we significantly increased the number of residential units that we had originally proposed as part of this project, such that now we're planning to deliver 2,000 units of housing, 500 of which, or 25% of which, will be affordable housing. And that would be delivered by converting office space into residential units under Mayor Adams' City of Yes effort, which is being supported by our city council member, Eric Botcher, and many other city officials. We just completed a conversion of an old office building in Lower Manhattan to 571 units. Again, 25% of those units are affordable. We like the program. We're able to do it efficiently. We're planning to bring that same effort to this project if we get a casino license. The second top request was more good paying jobs in the neighborhood. And to be frank, this was the number one priority of the residents and small business owners in the neighborhood with whom we met, because they all feel, and we agree with them, because our interests are really aligned with our residents and the local business owners in the neighborhood, that good paying jobs will create more economic benefit and opportunity for the neighborhood. Now, our project will create 4,000 union jobs and then 5,000 permanent jobs in the Avenir's hotel, food service court, the restaurants, the casino, and the management office. And what we're planning to do, and we've been telling our residents this as we've collected feedback, is we're going to prioritize those residents of our complex and residents in the neighborhood to have those jobs. Before the complex opens, we're going to have job fairs in our lobbies in the complex to help those that are interested in those jobs from the community put together resumes, plan interviews, demonstrate where their skills are, locate the types of jobs that they're most interested in. And so that's something that the community really appreciated. The third top request from the community was to add more offerings to the Avenir that they, the community, could enjoy. With that interest in mind, the Avenir will add several new and exciting amenities to the neighborhood, including, as Nancy pointed out, a very large community art gallery space along 11th Avenue, and then more than a dozen new restaurants, including many restaurants from the neighborhood that will be located in a 700-seat food court. And this food court will really help replace a food court that recently went out of business in the neighborhood called Gotham West Market, which is a food court that many people in the community loved and have missed. So we've incorporated that within our complex. We're also going to have several signature restaurants, including ones from very well-known, famed New York City-based restaurateurs like Danny Meyer and Steven Starr, who've already signed agreements to be part of our complex. We also have a 1,000-room Hyatt hotel with multi-purpose conference rooms and wellness and spa spaces. Again, amenities that the neighborhood asked for. And importantly, as Nancy mentioned, but I just want to highlight this, the casino will only represent 200,000 square feet of a 1.7 million square foot complex. So it's about 12% of the overall project itself. And the fourth top request that we received from the community was that we provide community organizations and community causes that the neighborhood cares deeply about, that we support them. In fact, that's what we're planning to do. We would support many of the important local organizations, schools, charities that are in the neighborhood. In addition, the Avenir will supply some space across the street from where the complex will be built to a company called Rethink Food. What Rethink Food does is it will take all of the excess food from the Avenir's hotel, the restaurant, and the food court, and they will repackage it and distribute it to residents in the neighborhood who are food insecure. And then finally, as part of our community benefits agreement, we are also considering establishing $1 million per year capital fund to be allocated at the community board's discretion. Now, having worked diligently to incorporate many of the community's top requests into our project, we also work diligently to mitigate their main concerns, which we will spend some time addressing a little bit later this afternoon. I'd like to close by saying, in our view, there's no doubt that one of the 3 proposed downstate casinos should absolutely be in Manhattan. According to New York State's own study, a casino located in Manhattan will generate the most tax revenue, which is revenue that the state, the city, and the MTA need in order to continue paying for important services and capital needs. Also, the state should focus on drawing the 60 to 65 million visitors to Manhattan into these casinos, and not the residents of New York City and New York State, which are likely to be the bulk of the customers that go to the casinos that are going to be located or could be located in the outer boroughs or in Yonkers. Manhattan, as you all know, is the epicenter of New York's tourism industry, and the Javits Center is a key part of that industry. It's in Manhattan's interest and in New York State's interest to have a casino located in Manhattan where all of the tourists, conventioneers, business travelers, and other out-of-state visitors come every day with the intention to spend money. Does not make sense to locate all the casinos outside of Manhattan where they will compete with the Manhattan tourist industry. The Avenir's central location, which is immediately adjacent to the Javits Center, within close walking distance of the Broadway district, Times Square, and other tourist destinations, and is so well connected to so many major transportation hubs, enables the Avenir to become part of the Manhattan tourism fabric like no other site in Manhattan or in any of the outer boroughs. Now I'd like to pass the mic to Tim Dracoff, the CEO of Rush Street Gaming.
Thanks, and thanks for having us here today. We're almost done, I promise. I'm going to share a little background on our company and tell you a little bit of our track record of how we like to engage with communities. We currently own and operate casinos in Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, the Chicago area, Southeast Virginia, and here in New York State, the Capital Region. We're the largest developer and operator of regional casinos in the United States. By regional, I mean we're not in Las Vegas and we're not in Atlantic City. Also, we've never acquired a casino. We've developed each one of these properties from scratch, and each one of these properties was the first casino that ever exists in that city or county, which is important. Regional development and bringing the first casino to a new urban market like that are both unique, specialized skill sets, and we have those skill sets. We know it's natural for communities to have questions about bringing a casino into their neighborhood, and we understand the issues. One of them is public safety. We'll make sure to prioritize public safety in this neighborhood like we do in all of our neighborhoods. We're in discussions with the NYPD to put a police outpost station on our property at our location, just like you would see at the Botanical Gardens or at the Bronx Zoo. We plan to have third-party personnel, safety personnel in the neighborhood, in addition to our own 300-person security and surveillance staff that we'll employ and will be on our property. The misconception that casinos attract crime is really based on old world Vegas and movies. The reality with these single casino developments, if done correctly, is that they reduce crime. We've seen this. There's third-party research on this. One example is in Philadelphia, there was a nonprofit think tank group called Next City that studies urban development. They did a study in Philadelphia, all the different neighborhoods, and they found that our neighborhood, which is Northern Liberty's Fishtown, saw crime go down by 20%. 20% is a big number. In over a 5-year period shortly after we opened our casino. That's not the only example. We have others, a couple of reassuring observations from public officials in our other markets. This is a quote from Pittsburgh Police Commander Sean Malloy. Rivers Casino Pittsburgh has a trusted relationship with the Pittsburgh PD, and there has been no significant negative impact on public safety resources. Similarly, Mayor Gary McCarthy up in Schenectady, New York, we have not had any increase in crime or other activities that sometimes are negatively associated with casinos or gambling houses. Separately, we take problem gaming seriously, and in partnership with the state, we'll have a robust and fulsome problem gaming mitigation program that we can talk more about later today if you'd like. Regarding traffic, we'll have so few parking spots at this facility that there won't be much of an impact on the surrounding streets, and we plan to take full advantage of the multimodal transit hubs in close proximity to our location, including offering shuttle bus service to and from those locations. Moreover, casinos don't have a start time and an end time like a sporting event does, and our peak times are offset with the peak rush hour traffic times. More positively, we will drive economic activity to local businesses. Our Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and Illinois properties spend $60 million roughly combined per year with local vendors in their locations. We'll reach out to businesses, we'll educate them on what our opportunities are and how to navigate the licensure and regulatory process with the gaming board. We're committed to creating 5,000 permanent careers for New Yorkers with a recruiting focus on our West Side neighborhood. No prior experience is necessary. We'll 100% train you. We partner with community colleges and local nonprofit workforce development programs to increase community opportunities. Examples of some of our partners are quoted on the screen there. We also support our team members with education. That's tuition reimbursement, scholarships for them and or their immediate family members, and new this year, a student debt repayment program that we offer through our company. Finally, our capital region property here in New York State is a shining example of how we like to do this. We did what we said we were going to do up in the capital region, and we earned the community's trust. This is another quote from Mayor Gary McCarthy that sums up what I'm talking about here. The casino in Schenectady has been a tremendous success. There was some apprehension of community members when it was first proposed. All of the apprehension and negative assumptions have not happened. It's been a vital and key component of the economic resurgence within the city of Schenectady. That makes us proud. And we're committed to engaging with this community in a collaborative and transparent way to deliver a project that we're proud of too. Dara?
Thank you. And now we're more than happy to answer any and all questions that you might have about the project, about the process, or anything else that's on your minds.
Can I ask a question about just the entrances to the building and what you're envisioning in terms of, or just getting a better understanding of where the hotel entrance is versus the casino and how the community art gallery is sort of interacting with all of that?
Sure, that's a great question. The main entrance will be on 41st Street, and that will be the entrance to the hotel and the casino. And there may be two entrances to the hotel there. And then all along 11th Avenue is where that community gallery will be. And at the southern portion of that, there is the second entrance. And on that entrance, you can get up into the building by a very long and I think exciting experiential escalator. But then there that takes you up to gaming or to the public cafe that's on the second floor. And then there are two additional elevators that take you up through the building up to the food court and other activities that do not go through the casino. So both of the entrances are considered vital to moving people into and through the building.
So you can, from 11th Avenue, you can access the casino, it's just via escalators or
Yes. And at the top of those escalators, there will be security for, underage people and for all security kind of issues. So the first floor is totally open to the public, like an interior public plaza. And then the major security happens from the 41st Street entrance and from going up the escalator to really what is like a sky lobby to get into the casino.
Any other questions from the committee?
Have you explored where there are opportunities to do the housing conversion that you shared with us?
Yes, we did our project that I referenced earlier in Lower Manhattan with a company called Metro Loft. They're the largest converters of office to residential developers in Manhattan. They and we together are working on locating those sites. We have been working on that, from the time we first put together this partnership, so it's been several months. This will continue to occur. We're not able to advance or put deposits or move forward with any projects unless or until we win a casino license. And so we mostly are making ourselves aware of options so that we can move quickly if those opportunities come to fruition, because we have a casino license and therefore the financial commitment and wherewithal to move forward. But long-winded way of saying, yes, we've already begun that process.
And so it won't just be properties that you already own, but it could be opportunities for acquiring new properties.
This program is envisioned to be brand new project, not brand new, like new opportunities that aren't currently tied up that are already being converted. These are
Brand new conversion opportunities.
brand new conversion
Of
opportunities.
office to
Right.
residential.
Yeah.
And if I can just elaborate on that, I am the architect of the project they're talking about. So Silverstein and Metro Lofton, Citrus
This is the one we did in Lower Manhattan.
Yes, yes. But part of the reason of thinking about why not to build a new building, with 25% affordable housing, is that there's two issues with the mayor's City of Yes that has passed. Converting an existing building that is underutilized, we can get housing to market much faster, a year earlier than if we were going to build a new building. The other thing is that with everyone's concern about sustainability, converting an existing building is the most sustainable thing that you can do. When a lot of people think about sustainability, you think about mechanical systems and things of that sort. But keeping resources that are underutilized is the very most sustainable thing you can do. And it also keeps the fabric of the neighborhood. So that's why it was determined to do conversions.
And the conversion, the location would be within this community board, or?
The priority is to locate projects on the far west side of Manhattan. And we are looking at opportunities on the far west side of Manhattan. There are more opportunities in other neighborhoods, just because, for example, Lower Manhattan, there are many more older office buildings that have outlived their useful life as office, which is why you see a lot of the conversions happening in Lower Manhattan. But yes, we are prioritizing the far west side.
I'm sorry, Matt just has a question real quick, you don't mind? Or do you want to go first?
No, Matt.
Are you sure? Okay. Matt, we can hear you if you want to go ahead.
Great, I do have a question. I just want to follow up on the current discussion about the housing. It sounds to me that without a specific location, it sounds like a non-specific promise that we really can't be considered as part of this CAC without actually having an actual proposal on hand. And it's something we need to discuss going forward. But as far as my question, in the presentation, this was kind of listed as a transit hub, but within the first radius, there's no strong transit connections. The main train station connection is its location right at the tunnel, which makes it, to me, seem like an attractive target for Uber, shuttles, party vans coming over from Jersey. How does this plan discourage that?
Can I answer the housing question first? So our commitment is to deliver 2,000 units, 25% of which will be affordable if we get a casino license. We are investigating opportunities now. We won't be able to advance those opportunities. There may be opportunities that we find in the future that we haven't found now, but the intent is to commit to delivering 2,000 units in the future if we get this if we get this casino license, 25% of which will be affordable. Sorry, over to you.
Yeah, we can't talk about those locations, right? Where those two ones we're looking at are right now.
Correct.
On the bus question, it is not our plan whatsoever to have big cruise line party type buses coming to this facility. We have been in that business in other locations years ago. That is not the plan here. That would not work for this property. Those those types of buses usually come because there's some incentive being provided by the casino to get that operator to deliver the patrons. This facility is being designed as to attract tourists, VIP customers, VVIP customers, business tourists, people of that nature. That's not the same demographic that's usually on those bus lines. So we have no interest in having that be part of our business plan.
And then relating to your questions about access to the transportation hubs, we tend to have a shuttle that drives to the transportation hubs and brings people to and from the casino. By the way, that free shuttle service, and it will be free, will also be made available to the individuals that live in the neighborhood. So the fact that right now the Far West Side has difficulty getting to subway station or major transportation efforts is why the Silverstein organization runs a shuttle in the morning and the evening from our River Place and Silver Tower residential building to get our tenants to those locations. Not every landlord does that, but with this service, you'd have basically a community of people that have access to those transportation locations by jumping on this shuttle that's making stops along the way.
And they're not going to be these giant party type shuttles. They're going to be the shuttle variety, kind of more nimble, that can built for streets like this.
Is it also correct to say that a casino and hotel is not like a Broadway show or a baseball game that has a start time and an end time where everyone arrives at the same time and everyone leaves at the same time?
Yeah, that's very true. There isn't that lockup at one certain time when the baseball game's over or starting. We're kind of continuous flow throughout the day.
Matt, any further questions?
No, that is it for now.
All right, thank you. Go for it. So bit of a two-parter. First actually relates also to transportation. I know the state senator has been very supportive, as well as a lot of other people, of an infill station on the 7 line in the area. Would there be any consideration of that in the future, whether that's even saving up the space for an entrance or an air shaft, or has that been looked at?
So we wouldn't be able to take on the responsibility of delivering. Right, but from our understanding, there had always been a proposal to put a subway station on the corner of 40th and 10th. And the main reason for that is, just as you said, the 7 line is directly beneath that, but it curves then south and drops off at Hudson Square at 34th. So you'd have to just build a subway station and a platform and cause the subway train to stop at that location. And voila, I know that's easier said than done, you would have a subway stop. We actually believe that a casino located in at our project site will both create significant revenues, which, as you know, go to the state, the city, and the MTA. So an opportunity for the MTA to allocate some of those funds to the creation of the subway stop. And in addition, we'd expect that if there was a subway station there, ridership would increase by those folks coming to the casino rather than walking there or taking the shuttle from another location. So the answer, Quentin, is there's more likely to be a subway stop one day in that location if there is a project like ours built in the neighborhood than if there isn't.
And sort of a follow-up in the street level design part of it. In the renderings, it looks like a lot of the street walls, there's art, glass, it's nice. Is there any consideration of street-facing retail, or is it just the side of the building and then entrances?
Should we talk about the food retail idea we have? Nancy can say where it's going to be in the building, but one of our concepts to engage small businesses in the local community is to have this specialty food retail store in there where we'd have products from all over the state. We're trying to have a focus on the local community. We'd have a chef's table where our chefs or chefs from the community come in and do their craft. And that's designed to be just what you said, engage local walk-up foot traffic for nice retail environment, supporting local businesses.
Mhm.
Is that right?
Yes.
I think the priority was to create a third space, because that was one of the things that we heard from nearly everyone who lived in our buildings. You know, where can I go after school? Where can I take my kids after school? So by taking that entire strip of 11th Avenue opposite the bus terminal and turning it into a 2-story public space that could be used by anyone for anything, you know, with a focus on art, because that's where our passion lies, and with a potential cafe on the second floor, that would be our sort of public-facing, accessible space, but it wouldn't necessarily be a retail space like you imagine, because those are inside the building.
I would just want to add one thing to the 11th Avenue and how you walk up. Well, our own 300-person security staff will be, you know, in the building, outside the building, you know, roaming that whole perimeter to help people, keep people safe. We'll have metal detectors to get into the building, and to get onto the gaming floor, which will be a few of those floors on the podium. Anyone who looks under the age of 40, we'll scan their ID and make sure they're of age.
Quentin, can I ask, is your question geared towards there needs to be more retail in the neighborhood, or just trying to understand the
Just in
the
terms
context?
of street livelihood, aside from just people,
I
you know, going to the block, entering, you know, whether it's staying in a hotel, you know, gaming casino, eating, what have you, and then leaving. Whether there be any opportunities for, even if it's a few small, you know, retail options that directly face the sidewalk. Just for sort of an overall vibrancy and, you know, eyes on the street.
I think there's always been an interest in somehow activating that part of 11th Avenue, you know, particularly with the bus storage facility, which is going to be, you know, not the most accessible for people. At least by starting it with this one block, we're, you know, optimistic that some of the other vacant sites along 11th might actually get developed and activated at some point. I know that many of us have been looking at those for a long time, somewhat frustrated that they haven't gone anywhere, but we figured we'd kickstart it with this and hopefully it'll lead to something.
And I think, you know, in looking at the 4 facades of the building, our thought was to have local art, but then also some interactive art that people maybe come up to the sidewalk and maybe be able to, you know, really interact with the art and so and keep the retail within the building. But we've been looking at, we didn't show you today, but some really immersive kind of art where that is digital and bring in local museums and really do things that change so that it becomes a place. Oh, have you been on 40th Street recently? Did you see the exhibit that is at the Avenir? So it was more like that, but I mean, it's something that we definitely can think about.
But we do believe that the art space itself will activate the street.
Yes.
Suggesting.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, you talked about the common concern that a casino would have sort of a negative public safety impact on the surrounding area. The Hell's Kitchen neighborhood for decades has been in a ongoing struggle to preserve both the quantity of housing and the affordability of housing from encroachment by all sorts of imaginable things. Have you examined the anticipated impact of something like a casino on the existing housing in the area?
Yeah, let me start that one. We have part of our RFP response was a third-party economic impact analysis done by a consulting firm, and that addresses this and other topics. But a couple things. Industry research on residential home prices are increasing is kind of neutral. We've seen an increase in a few of our neighborhoods, but across the industry, it's kind of neutral. We're going to employ 5,000 people, which is a good thing. Those 5,000 people are going to come from this. The vast majority of them are going to come from this 4.3 million person labor force that is in New York City already, and they won't have to so they won't have to move to this neighborhood, they can commute to this neighborhood from wherever they are. We don't have any intention of bringing a bunch of dealers up from Atlantic City or from our other properties. At a senior level, there might be some of that, but we intend to take the 4.3 million person workforce of New York City, train them, there's 250,000 of them that are unemployed right now, train them to be in our property, but not necessarily move them to our neighborhood. So we hope that there's not a negative impact. We think there won't be negative impact on housing prices there.
And just a reminder, the nearest residential properties are literally ours directly across the street. They're right there. They're all rentals, obviously, mixed levels of income. And we believe that what we're going to do here will have a positive impact on our buildings and on the people who live there. The other thing is, it's a hole in the ground, and it's been a hole in the ground for 10 years. And it's going to be a hole in the ground next to a Port Authority bus storage facility. So we're nervous that by not activating that particular site, it brings a slight risk to the neighborhood. We would much prefer to build something and have something there that's, of high quality.
In fact, many of our tenants relay to us their concern, especially with the development of the new Port Authority bus terminal, where there's going to be ramps. It's the one that Dara showed, that will even reduce the amount of kind of activity on that side of the street, because it's mostly just buses. And so there'll be less people walking around in that neighborhood, and therefore having a big empty site, in between a FedEx facility and a Con Edison stub station, the Lincoln Tunnel on the east side, and this, call it a bus garage on the south side, may actually create more concerns, which could be addressed or mitigated by having a asset that's well lit with cameras, with a detailed security crew, making sure that all the customers, who many of which are going to be walking to the building or walking out of our building because there's no parking for them or very little parking for them, it will actually increase the safety of the neighborhood.
Interestingly enough, when we first presented an earlier version of this project to the Community Board 4, we had envisioned putting 100 units of affordable housing on the site. And the response was not remotely enough. And when we started asking around the neighborhood, nobody really thought that living on the site made any sense. So the second thing we proposed was maybe taking 100 existing units in our Silver Towers building and making them 100% affordable. And the response was, that doesn't work either. You need to add to the inventory in the neighborhood. That is our top priority, whether it's affordable or not, which is why we came up with the idea of adding 2,000 units by converting underutilized office buildings, hopefully in the neighborhood as close as possible, and making 25% of those affordable. Even though there's no requirement to do so, it's not part of the actual structure itself. So that was in direct response to their request, and we're happy to do it.
Thank you.
I have a question about the shuttle and what you envision where it would wait in between, what a schedule would look like and where exactly you envision it going.
Sure.
And the capacity of it.
So I'll say we already run a shuttle service from Silver Towers and River Place that goes all the way across 42nd Street during rush hour and back. And it's nominally for the residents of the building, but the reality is anyone can take it if they want to take the bus over.
And what schedule is that?
So
is that every half
the
hour?
residential shuttle bus is for the people who live in the building, so it's basically every half hour during rush hour in the morning and in the evening. The timing on this will be different because it's obviously round the clock.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, they'll be much more frequent with this facility in operation. We're envisioning going up and down 42nd Street, stopping at the major transportation hubs that are already there.
Exactly right.
And the capacity?
Say that again.
The capacity of it, of the vehicle?
We'll have to ensure that the capacity or number or frequency of the shuttles is commensurate with the number of people who need it to go from a transportation site to our project, or from our project to a transportation hub, so that it will, I think it's too hard to know today how many, how often, how big, but obviously the intent is to accommodate the supply of people with the demand for that service.
And then, like, if it is on a, let's say, a half-hour schedule, hypothetically, where do you envision it would wait, like, between those trips? Like, on your site somewhere, or in the street?
I
or
envision they're moving the whole time.
Yeah,
they
They're
don't-
dropping off and then they're going back to pick up. And they're going, it's
Okay.
a constant movement.
that's what I envision too. By the way, 42nd Street, I remember when I first moved to New York City 30 years ago, 42nd Street was chaos in a car. But now with those bus lanes, and by the way, the shuttles that we use for our residents at Silver Tower and River Place use the bus lane because they're qualified bus vehicles. And, that's the speed of traveling along those bus lanes is very good. In fact, if you accidentally drive into the bus lane for whatever reason, you get a $50 ticket in the mail that shows a photograph of your car parked in a bus lane during an hour it's not supposed to be. So it's very well enforced.
And if a bus is not, one of our shuttles is not in service, we will have, of our very limited parking we have on property, there will be spots for those buses.
Any other questions by the members?
I do have one clarifying question. And I missed this when you mentioned a certain amount of funds available for the community board to direct funding to organizations. Did I get that correct?
Yes.
Okay. What is that amount?
So here's how we presented that. We presented in the RFP as a percentage of revenue we estimate from winning the license through the 8th year of our operation, contributing around $160 million in aggregate to the local nonprofits. Like we've identified the $1 million per year commitment to be managed, for lack of a better term, by the community board for public safety, for healthcare, for education. We would administer that kind of charitable giving program up to the $160 million based on the percent of revenue.
And that's annual?
Yeah, well, it's that's an aggregate number from inception, getting the license till the 8th year of operating. That's how we presented it. So roughly $20 million.
Yeah. If revenues were consistent, across those 8 years, it would be 20 million per year.
And we've already partnered with WIN and Covenant House, Hudson Guild, and other organizations that, we've just had a long partnership and relationship with. For a number of reasons, because these organizations address very specific needs within the community. And, those are needs that we're very interested in supporting. So it makes sense. It makes sense for those organizations.
And WIN is Women in Need. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, do you have a question?
Yeah, just going back to the sort of art gallery space along 11th Avenue. This is specific, but do you have an idea of what the hours of operation would be of that space?
I mean, it's a really great question. I would love for it to be 24/7, but I don't work in operations. I know that the artists that we house, work unusual hours in studio space, which we provide. My guess is that this space will be used by artists to showcase and sell their work. And we're not a gallery, so we don't charge any commissions. And that's the model that's worked best for us, and and for events, that people in the community would use. So off the top of my head, I would be guessing that it's from early in the morning until late at night, depending on the event or the use. But for the artists, at some times people could come in and visit the work. If it was studio space, it would make more sense to do around the clock, but I think it's much more likely to be presentation space and event space.
And it's not just any artist, it's also meant to showcase local artists as well. So,
And we have, as I think everyone knows, we have partnerships with a lot of organizations that, that work with emerging artists and help develop their careers. And we have 70 of them down at the World Trade Center alone. And the Bloom family is also very connected to, New York art community. It's just something we're really passionate about. And I'm really excited by this part of the buildings. I think it's just going to be a great place for people to showcase their work. Just for other people to host events.
I think Dara mentioned this, but we've engaged those artists to prepare these panels that are around the room. They were very engaged with us last weekend where we had a picnic for the about 400 residents that came from River Place and Silver Towers and from some of the residential buildings nearby. And they are part of our community, and we're part of their community, and we're really proud of that.
Yeah, we also have a history of working with a lot of street artists and offering them space. And it's often difficult for street artists to transition to gallery work and to selling their work. So whether it's providing them with free studio space, unused retail space, and now, this very high-profile double-height space is going to be really cool for those types of artists specifically. In addition to the digital artists, because if you're going to have that giant 2-floor digital screen, that's going to offer a lot of opportunities as well.
And I think it's, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dara, but we've also discussed, it's a place where there can be a TED Talk or a talk from the local community, or if a teacher from a local school needs multimedia and this space has it, and they're, in our rendering, we showed the Amazon in one of our renderings and one underwater, where you can have a class with children from a public school and use the multimedia to have classes and explore different ideas. So I don't think we're proposing it be like prissy gallery where, I'm not saying, all galleries are prissy, not the Silversteins, but it's really meant to be multifunctional, birthday parties.
We do kids mural classes with
Yeah.
our residents quite a lot. We just had one on Saturday, and it's just a lot of fun.
I think it was the most popular station in that picnic fair that we had. Children and many adults painting, on a large mural. That was
Yeah.
great.
Someone in the neighborhood not made me commit, but we were talking about how pet friendly this
that's
neighborhood
right.
is. And so the Silversteins have done pet portrait days in their buildings. And I mentioned it to someone, and this person followed me around during the picnic and said, will you commit to that? And I said, yes, I will, but it's really meant to be flexible and change with time, as everything does, so. It could be one of those spots, when you asked about retail, where a local person making belts, can have a pop-up, it's really meant to be something that is really an asset to the community.
The other thing that we're actually also hoping to do is connect our artists with the hotel. It's 1,000 rooms to decorate. And with the casino, which you guys are obviously involved in designing, so there's a lot of opportunities for artists to sell their work and make some real money out of it by decorating the entire project. And you talked about the outside, but the inside, I think, offers a lot of opportunities as well. So there's a lot of connections across the way.
Okay, I know that goes without saying, but I'd like to say it anyway. The Silverstein organization owns 2,300 apartment units immediately adjacent, across the street from this site. They want to make sure whatever is put on that site is complementary to their very significant long-term investment in that area. And so the interests are really aligned with our tenants. When we spoke to a lot of our tenants, at first blush, the idea of having a complex that had a casino, even if it was only 12% of the complex, created some nervousness. Many were ready for it. They're like, this is going to be great. It'll be a great addition to the neighborhood, all these restaurants, hotel. But the ones that, at first blush were a bit concerned, as they learned more about what it was that this project was going to offer. And again, understand and appreciate that our interests as a Silverstein organization, with our significant investment already across the street, we would put anything in the neighborhood that would significantly or negatively impact our significant investment in the site across the street. So our interests are really aligned.
Does anybody else have any more questions?
Yeah, I just have one more question. You might have said this, so sorry if I missed it, but it's 12% of the building. What would the capacity be, like the maximum number of humans gaming at one
I
time?
know the answer, but I don't know the answer.
We're talking about 6,000 gaming positions. You never run a gaming floor at maximum capacity. Maximum capacity of gaming floor is, it's really, really busy Friday night, 55% of that would be people in the casino area of the building.
So any other questions? Go for it.
So you mentioned a bit earlier about the potentially there being an NYPD outpost near there. With, in general, NYPD headcounts dropping, definitely in the CB4 precincts. Would that be staffed with members of an existing precinct? Would there be an attempt to recruit new people for it? Has there been any thought into how that would work?
Well, it would presumably be staffed with people from the 10th precinct, because that's our precinct. We're going to be in discussions with the NYPD about that. We know there's a shortage. We have the community money in our budget that I described before. We're also going to generate, besides all the gaming taxes, we're going to generate, that's going to go to education and MTA. We're going to generate a ton of municipal local taxes, sales tax.
And those 16 acres are, safety is very important. And Silverstein has done a great job over the last 23 or 24 years now, coordinating with the Port Authority Police, New York City Police, Battery Park City Police, the FBI, all the various crime organizations to keep that neighborhood, which is called the World Trade Center, very, very safe and secure. If you ask our tenants at River Place and Silver Tower how they feel about the security, not necessarily of their neighborhood, but of the immediate proximity. We have a park that is between those two buildings, and we make sure people, our residents, feel safe there. So if there is a challenge on the security and safety point of view, I think we are well suited to manage it, especially with the expertise that the Rush Street and Greenwood Gaming folks bring to the table as it relates specifically to security associated with casino patrons and whatever dynamic that brings.
Traffic and security were the top issues that everyone brought up to us when we reached out initially and when we've been reaching out consistently about the project. And it's been interesting, when we share your experience and all of the locations that you've opened and the impact it's had on crime and quality of life. And when we explain that we're really positioning this as a sort of transit-oriented development, the concerns lessen a little bit, and then it's kind of like, well, okay, but I'll believe it when I see it. But that's a lot of the concerns that we can get. Interestingly, not so much concerns about gaming, which kind of surprised us. We found out that it was 7% of the people that we polled were just, I'm against a casino anywhere, no matter what. And most of the people were open to the idea. A lot of people know it's coming, and it's just a matter of where. And our approach has been, if you're going to do it somewhere, as Dino says, do it in Manhattan. And this is probably a good location for all the reasons that we've laid out.
Do you anticipate having a project labor agreement on the construction of this?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We are.
And the higher
Silverstein
is-
is a union construction developer, builder, and so all 4,000 construction jobs will be union.
And the Hyatt will be unionized as well? the
Yes,
hotel?
also, yes.
The whole casino operation, including the hotel.
Yes.
And we have a labor peace agreement in place with the Hotel Trade Council.
And it's not just that, but as I said earlier, it's really offering this project as an opportunity for people who are maybe not yet union members to have the chance to apprentice for 4 years and become full-fledged members. I think that's really important to us as well, particularly people who live in the neighborhood, who maybe don't have a background in construction or who just aren't a union member. That's what we did at the Trade Center going back 20 years ago. And you know, and as you know, it's incremental, but it's also working with a lot of different organizations and really making the effort, because that's what we want to do. You know, we want to bring the local jobs in, and they want them, they're union jobs. So it's working with all of these programs to make sure that it happens.
Yeah.
Hosting job fairs, you know, before the project even starts, letting people know that these opportunities exist, letting high school seniors know that you can have a career in the union construction trades if you join this program or if you join that program.
In fact, I mentioned it, when we asked our hundreds of residents what they wanted most, it was the jobs. And these are great jobs that pay well, that they can walk to. By the way, good for them, great for us because they're not late to work because they're stuck on the R train or the FDR is backed up. In fact, we really want these jobs, as Tim said, as they've done it in all their projects, to be careers. We've teamed up with Danny Meyer, who has an organization called Hospitality Quotient. And what they do is train food service people, restaurateurs, hotel operators to become certified and accredited. They continue to advance your career as you get more certificates. And so they will be involved, the Hospitality Quotient, in training and recertifying all the employees. We don't want this to be a location where people come for summer jobs or part-time jobs. We want these to be careers because it's good for the residents in the neighborhood who are paying rent or building their families and going to the local businesses. As I said, it's very good for us as operators of that hotel, of those restaurants, of the casino, because our labor force is trained, happy, and walking to work every day.
And our upstate facility, the casino hotel in Schenectady, that's covered by the HTC as well. So we've had a collective bargaining agreement with them up there since we opened in 2017 and have a good relationship with them.
And I gotta say, it's been a real pleasure meeting your employees, both on site, but also when they've come here to New York to meet the folks who live in the neighborhood, because I don't think a lot of people understand that you can have a really successful, well-paid career working either in the casino or the hotel or in the restaurants. And it's not just at the tables, it's in the marketing department, which is what I do, or it could be in human resources or
IT,
accounting,
right.
IT. There's like a lot of different jobs available.
At this picnic we had last weekend, we had executives and then we had dealers and security guards too. So it was great to meet people who were coming.
It's obviously a big unknown here in New York City because there hasn't been one, but there's a lot of different types of opportunities. So I think another thing that we're planning to do is, a whole series of job fairs, just letting people know that this is available and it's available to you. And if you do this 2-year community college program, then you're in. Or if you do this 6-week program, then you're in.
I know Dara mentioned this, but the cultural similarities between Rush Street, Greenwood Gaming, and Silverstein are seamless. And maybe it's because they're family-owned, privately held organizations, very long-term focused. We don't plan quarterly, earnings reports and say, oh no, we need to get our earnings up, so let's not spend so much money on this project this quarter. We are building this asset for the long term and for the community. And as I said, our interests at Silverstein are very well aligned because it's going to be in our backyard.
And when you're taking a long-term philosophy like we do, you care about your community, you care about your team members, you care about your reputation, because you're in it for the long game. And that's what we are.
Any other questions from the board? Committee? No? All right, thank you so much.
It's really nice
Thank
meeting you
you.
all.
Thank you,
It's
guys.
really nice
Appreciate
meeting
it.
you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Does the members of the committee have anything else to present for consideration? Any anything else you want to speak about while we're here together in the room? So is any other thing else we can
The
talk?
scheduling we'll do offline.
Yeah, so I was gonna follow up with that. So, next steps will be, I'll reach out to you with a Google form to find out availability for, one, if you, any recommendations and contacts you might have for a space for up to 100+ people would be beneficial for us. You could send them my way. And then also, I'll send out a Google form that will check your availability for the next month and a half. So we can get those public hearings, scheduled.
If it's helpful, and I don't know whether this is appropriate or not, we have a ton of space for a real estate company.
Yeah, we understand that. Yeah, no, we understand that. And, we are in,
It's mostly occupied, but we have some.
No, but I mean, we have, you know, even in the residential buildings, there's rooms there that accommodate a lot where we've hosted, you know, local meetings.
yeah, we appreciate that. Thank you so much.
The other thing I'd suggest, if you're interested, and it's appropriate, a site tour where you visit to the site.
Yeah, the committee members can request that if they're interested. So we can discuss those things.
May I just ask a question? Just August is, vacation time for many of us, especially those with small children. When do we think we will know what the schedule is?
In the next week or two.
Okay, got
Oh, no, we're on a time
it. Got it, okay.
constraint, so in the
Okay.
next 2 weeks, we'll be, I would love to have one held in the next 2 weeks if we could find the spot, right? That would be ideal to at least get the first one under our belt, but we have to talk logistics and scheduling and all that stuff between the committee members. The one problem we have is Matt's not back until I wrote it down, Matt, I apologize, but it's the 7th, right? 5th? 7th, August 7th, yeah.
And by the way, if anyone would like to visit the site or even a coordinated visit to the site, let us know. We'd be more than happy to walk you around the site, help you understand it.
One won't happen until he comes back, just for, that way we can make sure that everyone's there as long as that works for everyone.
And also, when you're thinking of the format of the next 2 meetings, in order to keep it interesting, we're happy to mix it up. We don't need to do the same presentation that you guys have heard several times. There's a lot of other members of the team and our partners who I'm sure would love to be heard. So if it's appropriate, you guys let us know
Well,
what
that
you
is
think will
something like we talked about earlier in the meeting that we'll
Yeah.
discuss as for the committees to be able for you to discuss and decide what you would feel appropriate for the public hearings, what you would like from the applicant at those meetings as well, if anything, if you want them there and what you would like from them to help represent your communities.
That would be helpful. That would be
Sure.
very helpful.
And is there a process, or is it appropriate for us to request that certain people appear at the hearing? Like if we are interested in speaking to certain stakeholders?
Your committee
or
has the
groups?
opportunity to request whatever it is you want to request, for sure.
And I think once we have the information about the public hearings, and you have it available, you're welcome to share with anyone the information about how to register to speak at that hearing.
Yeah, sure. So if we have nothing else to consider for today, we're gonna, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Awesome. Second?
Second.
Awesome. That's it. Thank you so much for everybody.
Thank you.